Alrighty folks, back with another spreadsheet video for you guys. Hopefully this one actually makes it out on Monday. You can check out last week's, which went out I think Thursday, of the Rampage build spreadsheet. So check that one out if you're interested in building Rampage. Today we're diving back in, actually doing an update to the previous spreadsheet that came out before, which was the Health and Armor Gold Efficiency spreadsheet. So got a request to take a look at the tier 2 items. There are some tier 2 items that are pretty efficient, so shout out to that guy who tipped me off to that. But we've updated the spreadsheet to include those tier 2 items, and we're going to go through it real quick for you today and talk about the findings. If you haven't seen this first edition of the Health and Armor Gold Efficiency spreadsheet video, check that one out. This is the same spreadsheet that is linked in that one, and it is updated to the version 1.0.2 stats already. It actually already was when it went live the first time, so it still is, and you can see down here that we have added the tier 2 items. So let's take a look at these tier 2 items and see what conclusions we can draw from it. Once again, I've got it organized as the tier 2 item on the left, gold price, max health, the health per gold, or how much max health you get per gold spent on it, physical armor, magical armor, the total armor per gold rating, and then other value, so all the stats that aren't, health or armor, or if it has a passive, wrapped up into an other value rating. And then the same calculations for the total health and armor gold efficiency rating, which once again is weighing health twice as much as it's weighing armor, because armor only works against the one damage type that it's built for, whereas health gives you survivability against both. So it is kind of odd. It does make these health, it doesn't heavily favor these health items versus the armor items, but and that may not be exactly to the meta fit right now, but you could weigh them the same. There's going to be exceptions as we go, but let's go through here and talk about some of these. Most of these are really simple. They're just, you build 2 tier 1 items, and then you pay to upgrade them into a tier 2 item. So there are some standouts. We'll just go through the standouts because you guys are probably either familiar with the tier 2 items or not. Either way, it doesn't really matter because you're just building them to get to a tier 3 item. But going through the standouts here, we've got the Banded Emerald. This is just 2 of the tier 1 health items. Once again, up here at the top, I've got the baseline, which is the Vitality Beads and the Tunics or Wrap, which give you 100 health or 10 of the armor for 350 gold. So this is the baseline efficiencies that we're looking at, that we're comparing these to. That's what we compared them to in the tier 3 video as well. So looking down here, we've got the Banded Emerald. This is only 850 gold and gives you 250 max health added, which is a very health per gold efficient item. We're at 0.294. So for reference, a single Vitality Bead only gives you health at a price of 0.286 health added per gold. So this is actually more efficient to go for the tier 2 version of combining 2 Vitality Beads than it is to just fill your slots up with Vitality Beads. So interesting to see that there. Then you've got some other items like the Violet Brooch, which gives you only 200 health, but it gives you some other stats as well. So that's wrapped up here in the other value. We've got the Brimstone, which is an interesting one. This is the one that gives you the AoE tick damage around you, magical damage when you build it, and it is a combination again of 2 Vitality Beads like the Banded. Not quite as health per gold efficient, but the passive on it is very strong, which is why I've got a higher other value rating here for it. And then Tenacious Drape, this is the same thing. You're getting 300 max health, but for 1,250 gold invested. So not quite as efficient. The only one that actually beats out Vitality Beads is the Banded Emerald. So, keep that in mind. It is more efficient if you're just going for a pure stat efficiency than leaving them as tier 1 vitality beads. So a similar kind of story on the armor department. There's a lot of tier 2 physical armor items and not very many tier 2 magical armor items, but there's a couple standouts. We've got here the horned plate, which is very efficient. Again, we'll take a look at the reference, but this is 0.0278, whereas just building the tier 1 tunic or wraps is 0.0286, so nearly as efficient as just building the stats, but you get an incredibly strong passive with it because this is the horned plate physical item where when you get hit by auto attacks, it reduces the target's healing for I don't know if it's 3 or 4 seconds or whatever it is, but it is basically your anti-heal. It's your tier 2 anti-heal item, similar to this Loach Shawl down here at the bottom is the magical version of that, but again, nearly as efficient as building 2 tunics or building two wraps, I should say, or tunics for this case because it's physical, just not quite. And then you've got some other ones like the Steel Mail, which is just 2 tunic items put together, and it comes out to 30 physical armor for only 1,000 gold investment. So this actually beats out, similar to the way that the Banded Emerald beat out the Vitality Beads, this at 0.03 actually beats out the tier 1 tunic or wraps items as far as stats added per gold invested. So another good finding to see there. It is more efficient to buy a Steel Mail than to just leave 2 tunics unupgraded to tier 2. And then there's some others that are close, the Barbed Pauldron. This is the one that gives you a reduction in their attack speed when they hit you. So not as valuable as anti-heal, but still a good passive for nearly as good of a stat value. And then finally the magical version, which is the Nullifying Mask. At only 700 gold, you get 20 magical armor, which if you look at it, this is basically, this is the same number, 0.0286. This is the same number as this, 0.0286, because this is 10 armor for 350 gold, and this is 20 armor for 700 gold. So this is just the equivalent of buying two versions of wraps side by side, but it only takes up 1 slot. So just as efficient, more efficient significantly than almost any of the tier 3 items. We looked at the tier 3 items. Most of them cannot offer you pure stat efficiency because of the passives that they're offering is the reason you're building them. There's only a couple items here that can really get close to the armor per gold efficiency or the health per gold efficiency, like Remnant of Renewal doesn't even come close, and it's the highest rated one. So looking again at the total health and armor gold efficiency rating, which I calculated the same way as last time, which is weighing armor half as much as health, or weighing health twice as much as armor, however you want to look at it. And we can see that compared to these, where we only had a couple that were over 20, there are some actually much higher numbers in this category in the tier 2s, because these items are just generally more gold efficient than the tier 3s, and some of them even more efficient than the tier 1s. So, Banded Emerald, highly efficient with how much health you get per armor, how much survivability is added when you're weighing health twice as much as armor, because it gives you so much health for such a little investment. And then same thing with Tenacious Drape. This also gives you tenacity with it, so that's cool. And then we've got Vigorous Amulet, giving you a combination of physical armor and health. So it ends up earning itself a higher survivability added efficiency. And then finally, Horned Plate I highlighted here. Even though it is not statistically as strong or adds as much survivability as some of these other ones because the health is weighted so high, it has a very useful passive, which you see is the items that I've asterisked here as the Brimstone, because it gives you the AoE passive, and then the 2 anti-heal items being the Horned Plate and the Loach Shawl, giving you anti-heal versus physical and magical respectively. So Here's the updated tier, or the updated spreadsheet. Again, the link is below. You can hop into it yourself, and if you can try to find some sort of value in this, in playing with this yourself, or want to add items or make some sort of builds on the side here to maximize early game efficiency, you can. But really, we're just doing this to draw conclusions and help you guys out as far as build order and how you should be building stuff. So we have the same conclusions down here as we had for the tier 1 or the tier 3 analyst video, but we've got some extra tier 2 conclusions here that we'll go over here at the end. But overall, good findings. Shout out to the guy that told me to take a look at the tier 2s, because this is definitely something to consider. You know, we do have a couple items here that are highly gold efficient, but coming in here to the conclusions, there are multiple tier 2 items that are nearly as gold efficient or more gold efficient than even the tier 1 items, which is pretty surprising because the general theme with the tier 3 items is stat efficiency wise per the gold. None of them really come that close to how efficient the tier 1s are. You know, you're paying for stat efficiency by going to the tier 3 and picking up the passives that they give you, so you know, that's understandable. But there are some tier 2s that are even more efficient than even the tier 1s, which is pretty surprising. But, you know, the other conclusion is filling out, this should be out, quality proofreading skills right there, folks. Filling out your item slots with highly efficient tier 2 items will give you a stat advantage over your opponents, because nobody else is going to be doing that. You know, you've probably never seen anybody doing that, but it probably isn't worth it. So you could fill out all 6 of your item slots as early as possible with some of these hyper efficient items. Like if you know you're going to be building an item, a tier 3 item later that builds out of Banded Emerald, you could build a Banded Emerald, or even 2 or 3 if you know you're going to be using multiple tier 3 items that build from it. But the question is that really going to be worth it? Same thing with some of these other armor-based tier 2 items. You know, if you know you're going to be using multiple, you could build them early and then, you know, finish them late. But there is a reason you see people work towards specific tier 3 items as soon as possible. And that is, oh, there we go, I'm trying to connect. Tier 3 items as soon as possible, and that is for hero-specific power spikes, the items that certain items provide. So think about Earthshaker on Greystone, you know. Getting that passive online from that tier 3 item is so much more valuable than just having more stats, that it's really worth going for the power spike of grabbing that tier 3 item as soon as possible, which is why you don't see anyone fill out their item slots early with tier 1 or tier 2 items, because they want those tier 3 items passives. They really can be a game changer in certain engagements, or give you massively boosted survivability with certain items. Like I'm thinking of Mutilator giving you anti-heal, or giving you Omnivamp, whereas you can't get Omnivamp from any of the tier 2 items. Well, you can get from Bloodletter, but it's not going to be nearly as much. You know, you're not going to build 2 Bloodletters before you finish your Mutilator, because Mutilator is so much more valuable. So, you know, that's the takeaways that we've got here. Like I said, hop into the spreadsheet yourself if you want to investigate any of it, if you want to play with it. You could change this number here to a 10, you know, to multiply by 10, and then, you know, if we equalized this out here, we would see that some of the, if we weigh the armor the same as health, there's going to be some items in here, like this Steel Mail, that are just even more efficient, like this Vigorous Amulet. This gives you health and armor. They're going to be even more efficient or have an even higher rating. But, you know, like I said, armor only affects you against one enemy type or one damage type. So, you know, that could be practical if you're playing in solo lane and you know that the majority of the damage you're going to be taking is from a physical damage solo laner. Then in that case, something like Horned Plate is even more efficient, because you're only dealing with one damage type. But the majority of the time you are going to be taking damage from multiple damage types, the physical and magical. You know, if you're in duo lane, you're going to have one of each probably hitting you, or the jungler may be a different damage type than the person you're landing against. So when you get jumped on, you got to deal with that damage type in addition to the person you're landing against damage type. So it is what it is, something to consider and take a look at. But that's going to do it for this video. Check out some of our recent videos. We recently put up a ranked commentary from Fang Mao. If you're interested in Fang Mao, you can see some post-game commentary of when I played him in a ranked game and did pretty well. And we talk about, how to be a better solo laner, specifically with Fang Mao, but also just in general for solo lane. And then also, like I said, the Rampage spreadsheet went out last week, so check out that spreadsheet if you're interested in building on Rampage. We're going to continue to do some testing on Rampage as well. This should be pretty conclusive for the health and armor gold efficiency. I would like to do one for power and damage as well, physical and magical power, but it takes a while to get all of this type of spreadsheet together because it's a lot of items and I don't want to leave any out. So that one probably will be in the works here eventually. I think the next one we're going to do is a Quang build spreadsheet. I've had requests here for Quang to be the next one up, and I like playing Quang. Quang is very strong, and he can be complicated to build on as a magical tank. You could say magical, depending on if you're playing him in jungle or solo lane, a magical damage tank type hero. So we'll do a build spreadsheet for him coming up next Monday, ideally, if everything works out again, next Monday. And yeah. So, we're getting after it. I hope you guys are enjoying the spreadsheets. We're going to keep churning them out. They're fun to draw conclusions from. So, thanks for watching, guys. We will see y'all in the next one. I've been trying to figure out this lighting to see how I'm going to be able to do all the lighting. I know it kind of like washes me out, and the lighting is crazy, but we're figuring it out. We're working on it. Thanks for everybody being patient and supporting the channel. And we will see y'all in the next one.